I've forgotten that the government has created this opportunity for us, the youth, so that we try to take ourselves away from this touting thing. Okay, what the government is doing this time around is to make massive arrests, and there must be proof that you are an illegal revenue collector. Surprisingly, you will not know that people are there catching you with some cameras, placing reports repeatedly, and you will be caught. When you are caught, they will take you to rehabilitation center so that the system will educate you, enlighten you on the need to get away from this thing that you are doing. It's not going to help you. Then it will integrate you into the system through the Ministry of Youth Development by that one youth 2 skills. The governor has made it that the youth of Anambra must have at least 2 skills. Think of it, this is the first of its kind. And we are really, very grateful to Professor Charles Soludo for this, unique project that he has brought for the youth. So the thing is there is for every youth to catch into the opportunity, because it's ongoing. Now they've just concluded their pilot program and, doing finishing touches on the youth that they will train. It's over 5,000 of them, the application that we have seen. So for them that are doing touting, let them be rest assured, we are equally in the field doing this work of fishing them out, Anambra Youth Volunteers. There's no hiding place for them in Anambra State, because so long as they are there, we know where they are living. We are engaging the locals that can just catch them on the camera. We report to relevant authorities. We catch them, we take them to the relevant authorities, and then they will be rehabilitated and be reintegrated into the system. So the system is really working for anybody who feels like harnessing it. Is very, very open for all of us. Thank you.
Okay, let's look at this first story. Anambra State government restates resolve towards entrenching transparency, accountability in service delivery. This is where we're having problem with the governments, ranging from the public servants, the civil servants, to the contractors and everybody that is working for the government. So how do we entrench this transparency and accountability? I'm still coming back to you in service delivery.
Yes. It's all coming from the system. It's a revolving thing. The system providing the workable institutions that, is doing all these things, like you say about the contracting, the procurement, the concerned offices, doing what they're supposed to do. And unfortunately, let me put it this way, because for those that are thinking that it's business as usual, the governor is out to see everything. To the last kobo, how you are spending it, he will come do his inspection. So the thing is a thing of every person putting hands on deck, both the contractors, the institutions, the government, constituted institutions, the ministry, the relevant ministries or agencies through which these contracts are moving. Every person should be, up and doing this time, because I don't think you are finding it funny with His Excellency. He doesn't waste time in making sure that things are going the way they are supposed to go. Contractors are being paid, and the ministry have to be running the supervisory role that they are meant for, to ensure that they are getting the relevant materials that they're supposed to get in sight, and then doing the job as specified. So, and then the legislators too, they're equally doing their own oversight. So everything is working. The collapse system has been resurrected to working perfectly well. So the governor is very, very determined on ensuring transparency and delivering that dividend of democracy to Anambra, and we are so happy with that.
Okay, thank you very much. You might want to add one or two things.
Yes, see, the issue of transparency and accountability remains an integral part of every government agency if we must achieve meaningful productivity. Because without transparency, without accountability, without probity in the system, I think we cannot achieve the required progress as a state or as a people. You see, our problem in Nigeria is not democracy, but democratizing the democratic institutions. Just like people have said so far, that the issue in the area of law and order, we have beautiful rules, but the issue is, are we keeping to those rules that will it transformed our system into an enviable, one. You see, people go to abroad and said that things are working, things are in order, because they obey the rules. We have civil service rules. The issue is, are people keeping to these rules? Why are we maneuvering some of these rules when you know that these are the stated rules that we must follow to achieve productivity? You see, the issue of manipulation, nepotism, favoritism, and what have you, has remained, a very Herculean task. And if we must get it right, we must, ensure that transparency, accountability among staffs and civil servants, even contractors. Because as a contractor, when you are mobilized, you go to a site, there are certain level of work you get to before you generate your payment, whatever. And there will be an inspection by those responsible for it to ascertain that what you've done is, commensurate with the money given to you. So when we talk about accountability and probity in the system or transparency, it involves a lot of things, including I and you. In our respective offices, how accountable are we? How accountable are we to people that are subordinates? As a superior, are you accountable to a subordinate? As a subordinate, are you accountable to a superior? So it has multi dimensions, but it's a nice one that the governor has a zero tolerance to issue of accountability, probity, and transparency.
All right. Thank you very much. And I think that's all we're taking from our website this morning. Let's quickly get to the papers and find out what is trending too. Our first paper this morning is the Daily Sun newspaper. And on the front page of the Daily Sun newspaper, we'll have this story. The banner headline there says, Senate presidency race. Tinubu rejects APC, NWC push for South-South. Senate presidency race, Tinubu rejects APC, NWC push for South-South. And let's look at the riders there. Insists zoning should be South. APC senators elect route for Carlo as Northern Southwest Coalition pushes for Southeast. Okay. And beside the name template of the Daily Sun, we'll have this story. IPOB, Supreme Court grants federal government's request to file additional grounds in appeal against Kanu. Supreme Court grants federal government's request to file additional grounds in appeal against Kanu, adjourned till May 11. Okay, let's look at other stories coming from here. Malami dismisses alleged claim about loss of $2.4 billion crude oil sale to China. Governors want Buhari to present new revenue sharing formula to NAS before May 29th. Federal government suspends fuel subsidy removal. Governors held Osibanjo in valedictory sessions for him. Don't abandon Buhari after May 29. Adamu APC boss begs Nigerians. Urges Nigerians to support Tinubu to succeed. Why Ugwanyu worked for my emergence? Mba Enugu governor-elect is saying this. Okay, do we still have another story coming from here? No. So let's move to the next paper, which is the Daily Independent, please. Daily Independent paper, banner headline, companies working for foreign careers quitting Nigeria. Let's find out why. Emirates consultant exists, declares workers redundant. Stakeholder urges ticket sales in dollars to stop job cuts. Okay, we are watching what Nigeria is turning to. Okay, down here, why federal government made U-turn on fuel subsidy removal by June. Do we have other stories coming from here? Yes, Governor asked Buhari to present new revenue sharing formula to NAS. Okay, we have seen this. Any new story coming from here? Overconfidence worked against opposition in 2023 elections, says Buhari. I think that's somewhere we'll have it as banner headline. So let's move on. The Punch newspaper is the next paper this morning. On top of the name templates of the Punch newspaper, we have some stories there. Federal government plans supplementary budget as next suspends subsidy removal. Okay, rescued Nigerian students arrive Egypt, await airlift. Okay, but the banner headline on Punch newspaper said, National Assembly leadership, Tinubu governors dump consensus for zoning. Why? Governors advise Tinubu against endorsing candidates, seek due process. Work with party leadership for principal officers election, Tinubu tells governors. All right, over 60,000 soldiers recruited under my watch. This is coming from Buhari, the outgoing president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Any other story coming from the Punch newspaper? Not quite interesting. Okay, let's get to Guardian. Okay, before we get to Guardian, let's quickly see the ones who have talked about before, starting from the Daily Sun newspaper. Let's see what's going on in the Senate presidency, maybe the outcome of the meeting that they held yesterday. That's the presidency-led held yesterday with the National Working Committee and the governors. And there are so many instructions coming and so many advices coming. Let me start with you again, comrade. How do you see this push for the election of the principal officers in the National Assembly?
You see, Nigeria is a state that is made up of different tribes. Do you understand? And if we must be sincere to ourselves, if we are three and we have three things to share, everyone will take one. And there is no more debate on it. You see, they went to the president-elect. Their notion was for them to have a consensus. But in his wisdom, he rejected it and said, let it be zoned to South. The Senate president must be zoned to South. The issue is we have Southeast, we have Southwest. Sorry, we have South-South and Southeast. Ordinarily, we're supposed not to have any controversy over this matter. The Southeast has been marginalized over the years. And I think it will be in the interest of justice, equity, and fairness to zone the president of the Senate to the southeastern region of the country. Because the Southwest has become the president-elect. Northeast, the vice president. So what is there? What is difficult for them to zone the Senate president to Southeast so that every part of the country will have its own bargaining power? If you talk about party leadership or party structure, I think we have competent, senators that were elected under the platform of the APC, because the general perspective will be that any senator, any person that will emerge must come from the APC. We have senators that have the required experience and charisma to lead the 10th Senate. And why can't the APC, rally around and support these competent politicians and bureaucrats who have in the Southeast, who have already offered themselves to to offer the leadership? I think as a nation, there are certain things we must do for ourselves, and there are things we ask God to do for us. You see, the Southeast are agitating for marginalization, and this is an aspect I think will help to douse the tension. Look at the issue of Nnamdi Kanu. One of the basic contention why he is under detention is the same issue of marginalization. The perception is that the Southeast are being marginalized in a country that they are part of. So I think there are certain things we need to do to help douse the tension. We are still talking about the irregularities that took place in the general election, and the people are still angry. Another one is the vital positions, the key positions in the National Assembly. I think it would be a good idea if the APC and the other political parties should zone the Senate president to Southeast and then support them.
All right. Thank you. You may have a contrary opinion.
Yeah, I'm not actually contrary. You know, this is seek for power in my thinking. When you look at what these people that are saying South thing are saying, because we've been able to, why are you pushing this? Looking at the reality on ground in this country. Then they brought us to this thing of there is no state in Southeast that has not tested the office of the Senate president. You know, and some people seeing what is going on in the judiciary, in the tribunal, presidential election tribunal, and the things Mr. Peter B, has talked with, there is this hope that if it comes to positivity, that it won't pay Nigeria too good, that Southeast become the president and Southeast become the Senate president. Do you get? That's the argument. So, but we are looking at today, because no one knows how tomorrow is going to be. We are looking at today, and we say, in fairness, I mean, these are people now that have really contributed, and I say contributing to the growth of this country. It's not a thing that someone from Southeast needs to even fight for. It's something that if we are too good to ourselves, too realistic about issues, we say, well, this is what we're supposed to do. But still, this is power tussle. It's not giving, it's taking. So you have to go and struggle to get it.
You have to go and struggle to get it. Okay, thank you very much. You touched a little bit on the Nnamdi Kanu's case. Yesterday he went to court, that's the Supreme Court, and then too many other charges, different new charges were brought up against him. How do you see this case going? No, I'm coming to you.
I didn't really follow up with this, so that's why I'm loving it.
Okay, obviously speaking, and without any iota of sentiment, the issue of Nnamdi Kanu is a politically masterminded issue, and if it will be handled, it must be handled politically. There are certain issues, when we talk about ideological issues, okay, it is different from local issues or issues that doesn't have to do with ideology. And irrespective of what the court have said, the order of the court was neglected. And yesterday they brought a petition before the Supreme Court, and they were granted for new charges against him. You see, there are certain issues that must be treated politically, and there are issues that must be treated through the court. And the Nnamdi Kanu's case is politically masterminded, and we must note this. And any attempt to resolve it must be politically consulted among the various stakeholders. Thank God that the Johannes Ndigbo has spoken in the past, and so many other people have spoken. Even our governor, Professor Charles Chukwuma Soludo, there was a time he said, release it to me. Release him to me. And there was a time he said, for peace to prevail in Southeast, the release of Nnamdi Kanu is very vital in the interest of the Southeast and Nigeria at large. Nobody is a stranger in Anambra. We know the situation we are into today, and we know the major cause of that situation. If the essence of government is to provide for the security of life and property of the citizens, why can't we do those things that will enhance that security of life and that of the property of the people? Is a threat to our national security, is a threat to our welfare, is our threat to the security of our property. And there is a solution to it. So somebody has offered, release it to me unconditionally, or even with condition, so that we have the related peace we need.
What about the judgment that has been passed in the past that said? And
the federal government, through the security agencies, has refused to obey the verdict of the court. And we are still talking about democracy. It means that absolutely the democratic institutions are not highly democratized.
They're not working.
And that is the problem.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now let's look at the subsidy thing. Why federal government made U-turn on fuel subsidy removal by June? Well, over time, they'll be talking about the money they have borrowed to cushion the effects of removal of subsidy. And I don't know how many times this subsidy has been removed, as a matter of fact. And now they are talking of suspending it again. What do you think is playing with that?
I am looking at this system as playing with the intelligence of the people. Okay? When the Minister for Finance was speaking yesterday, when you look at her eyes, you see that it's filled with lies. It's, why would you say that they've even made it that the next administration will decide whether to suspend or to continue? Do you understand it? An administration that is just coming into power by 29th May, and the time is June.
And you stayed for 8 years.
And you have stayed there for, so it's a thing that it's left in the hands of Nigerians, to me, to know what to do with this decision, these policies that these guys are making. Or the parliament should, look at this kind of statements. It's really embarrassing and it's really disturbing the Nigerian populace. What they are doing is very bad, and it's very unfortunate that no one is really talking to them the way they need to be talked to.
Okay.
This is bad.
Okay, let's look at the rest of the papers.
Sorry.
Okay.
I think I have to add something here. You see, I don't have issue with subsidy removal, but there are certain silent questions we must ask. One, the statement from the Minister for Finance said the committee has done a proper report and it has been presented to Mr. President. And upon that, I advised him to halt the implementation and leave it for the incoming government. I now ask myself, if we must remove subsidy, there are other considerations we must put in place. A civil servant who is receiving 30,000 naira or 35,000 naira as salary, and this was when this subsidy were not removed. With the removal of subsidy, it will impact in his or her economic spending. To what extent has government put into consideration the suffering of Nigerians, sufferings of those civil servants? Will there be another increment in their salary?
Of course, they talked about the 40% increase, but just yesterday, the NLC was telling them that if you must remove subsidy, then think of 100,000 naira, what do you call it? What do they call this thing that they do?
But even the NLC.
Minimum wage,
yes,
of 100,000 naira.
Yes.
Okay, but even at that, of course, some people are saying maybe that's what they had and decided to suspend the subsidy thing. I don't know.
But even the NLC, they have a responsibility to discharge. At this point in time, if the federal government is removing subsidy, they must also come up with a new salary, structure that will favor, that will balance the equation. Okay, we're talking about subsidy now. For the past 5 months now, the price of PMS has always been from 250 above. And in Anambra today, some are selling 250, some are selling 235. There was a time it was sold for 300 naira. And even above.
5.
Okay, so those ones are not official removal. But people are now used to it, because even if you put it at the rate of 220 today, people are comforted because they have been buying it above that. So it's a diplomatic strategy to motivate the people and monopolize the system. So once it is done, they will easily accept it.
That's just it. Because to me, you see, this thing, the money that is spent in subsidy is much, much more than the minimum wage thing that you are talking about. I believe that if this thing is stopped, if the subsidy is removed, because the money, there's a money that we are putting into it, the money stops going out. It is used into the system to do the needful, to run government, including the civil servants. And point of correction, this 40% increase that people are saying, there's no 40% increase in civil. It's on these people that are on consolidated salary structure thing that they gave. There's something that NLC called it kind of something allowance It's not an increase. It's not a flat thing. It doesn't go to even those in health services and education. It's just on the consolidated, maybe the NTA people and the rest of those people and the consolidated salary structure. They give 40% increase. So it's not a general thing.
Okay.
Nigerians are still suffering, and they are really, really suffering. Just to cushion effects on some particular, structure of the sum. So the money, if stopped, they know that it will be very useful to the economy. But due to what they are benefiting from it, that's the point.
They don't want the system. Be very useful too.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you wouldn't know what happened to that money.
That's just it. You don't know how they're spending it.
That's nothing they will point at and say that this is what they did with the money. Okay, let's continue. Let's look at the rest of the papers, please. The Guardian newspaper is our next paper. The headline there: Nigeria's drug hit crisis hit 500 billion worth of seizures yearly. Is the big story here. And then other stories coming from here. After $800 million palliative, federal government suspends subsidies, size wrong timing. Okay, the Nation newspaper, please. Nation newspaper now. Why Tinubu flood Atiku Obi by President Buhari. Let's see what is in the president-elect urges governors to back party on National Assembly and then top positions. Okay, mixed reactions, 12 subsidy removal. People have looked at that. Why Tinubu flood Atiku Obi by President Buhari is the major story coming from this the Nation's newspaper. Then our last paper this morning, is it the last? Okay. This day newspaper, Buhari, overconfidence, bad tactical move, skilled opposition at polls. Agabi's talking now. Okay, and then it says APC blended confidence with caution, worked hard to win, hints at retirement plans to live in Kaduna after 6 months in Daura, discloses nation's military ranking has risen from 7th to 4th in Africa. Okay, he's counting his successes as he's ready to leave. Sudan, first batch of Nigerian evacuees arrive country today. Until we see them. Okay. I think we are seeing other stories coming from here. Okay, let's look at the strategies that Buhari said that the APC applied. That was why they won the election, and what he said that the other opposition parties did not do. Of course, he said their problem lies on the overconfidence that they are going to win, not knowing that the APC have applied a very useful tactics to defeat their oppositions. Why are you laughing, Edward? I'm coming to you. So how do you see that statement from the president?
Yeah, it's very interesting that it's coming from him, the #1 citizen of the country, having seen how prepared people were, how prepared the oppositions were to follow due process, to follow the legitimate process that was, tabled out to the people, that this is how we are going to run this election, and people were fully preparing themselves. Maybe he meant that they didn't prepare themselves through maybe not pushing the election results from the polling unit to their central system. Maybe that was how the APC prepared it. But the opposition prepared themselves.
It could be overconfidence in that INEC will deliver. So they didn't know they should go and make plan B.
Why would they? So what Mr. President is telling us now is that we should not trust the system of government. Because I don't know what really happened that the opposition parties did not prepare for. They were fully prepared, even with their electronic systems, that they are gathering these results at their own nuclear level to bring it up. Still, so what I don't really know. He would have detailed us the strategy APC applied to have gotten this kind of result that is still under contest. That people have brought out so many proven evidence that this thing is filled up with flaws. So I don't know, but when you are marking your script, I don't expect you to mark yourself down.
You may want to come in here, comrade.
Okay, it's a very interesting speech by the president, and it's unfortunate that it is coming now. You see, according to the president, I read the article. He said that people have this perception that the government of Muhammad Buhari and the APC has failed Nigerians. And because of that, they believe that the new force and even the PDP will overtake,
APC.
Will take power from APC. Unfortunately, reverse was the case. That was his basis of argument. But the truth of the matter is that if we are talking about strategy, I want to know the strategy APC used. And that's what I had expected Mr. President to tell Nigerians. Prior to the election, there was this controversial cash crunch or cash confiscation, looking at the scenario. And it crippled the economy. People who are far from their place of voting couldn't come back. And there was this overemphasized transparency on the side of INEC, that the system, the process is going to be transparent, it is going to be very, very credible and free and fair. Unfortunately, none of these things came. Maybe Nigerians and oppositions were planning for this aspect of accountability and the transparency, credibility of the system, while the APC also planned for the other side of it, which is the irregularities that characterize the entire system. You see, maybe the strategy Mr. President is telling Nigerians is exactly what happened in Adamawa State, when collection of results were still ongoing in some local governments, and the resident electoral commissioner had to announce a result, announcing in favor of APC. Maybe that is the strategy that worked during the normal process. We don't know. It was after a critical and constructive investigation that people came to know that this is false, that it was Filtri that won the election. Maybe that was the strategy they used in the first time and it worked for them. As you can see, it is unfortunate that we're in a country where our promises and statements doesn't, reflect the reality on the ground.
Oh, yeah.
And it is high time people forget about theory and look at what is available and obtainable in the practice.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Governor Swan Buhari to present new revenue sharing formula to NAS before May 29th. Why this hurry? He has been around for 8 years, and then this thing didn't come up. And what exactly do they expect? What formula do they expect them to present? Is the sharing formula now not beneficial to them?
No, they would have detailed what they really want. Because to me, some of the governors are coming in, some are fresheners, some are still there. So there's no pressure that you have to be mounting on somebody that is packing his loads. This is almost end of April. You understand? So by half time in May, the man should be staying in Daura and be coming to the villa. So I wonder why you should be saddled with this revenue sharing formula at this point in time. So let them wait for the next administration, in my own thinking. Because I don't know the cause of the hurry. That's it.
All right, finally, before we go, the man should be staying in Daura after 1 month. And talking about staying in Daura, don't abandon Buhari after May 29. Adamu APC boss begs Nigeria. What does that mean?
You see, this statement is political. And Adamu is the national president of
National chairman.
national chairman of APC, and is a very good friend of Mr. President. The perception is that once somebody has performed and no longer in power, people no longer consult him, people no longer call him on the phone, people no longer respect him the way they used to respect him. That is the general perception. But, it happened during the time of former President Goodluck Bello Jonathan. The moment he lost that election in 2015, everybody deserted. Even some people who were part of his government rushed to the other side of
that's politicians.
You see, but this one is different. It is different because it is the same government the APC is handing over to APC.
APC.
And you see some semblance of continuity.
Okay.
So it's entirely different from, maybe he's saying that to gain favor from Mr. President in the remaining...
Or maybe because of the sentiment that the president started whipping recently, that he will retire and go to Daura. If they disturb me, I'll move over to Niger Republic. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Comrade Dominic Okabwe, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, obvious. Thank you, Nigerians.
Okay. Odema, thank you. Onyedika Ewe, also a public affairs analyst. Thank you for coming.
It's my delight. Thank you for listening to us, viewers. Thank you very much, ABS.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for joining us, even though you did not participate, but not to worry. Perhaps we are representing you very well. That's why I didn't bother to participate. Thank you for joining us this morning. And then remember that we are moving from this place to the other stage for our discussion segment. So do join us. My name is Sijama. Thank you.